It's great to be a Miami Hurricane. This is Canescast, and I am your host, Garrett Halsey. On this week's show, we're going to dive into the new Hall of Famers. Devin, Hester, and Andre Johnson have both been elected to the Hall of Fame, much deserved. We're also going to get into some of the turnover in the organization. I'll touch on the Miami Hurricanes basketball team. And then lastly, I will get into my Super Bowl pick. It is Super Sunday week, and I will give you who I think is going to win the 2023-2024 Super Bowl. First off, I want to thank those new and returning subscribers. Again, guys, we're making some headway in the show each and every week. We're getting more and more views, so I can't thank you enough. Please go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, if you're tuning into the show. And I'd also like to encourage you guys to leave comments. At this time, I want to get into as much back and forth as I can with you during the week. So don't be afraid to leave your thoughts down in those comment sections, and I should be able to get back to each and every one of you, and we can get some good Cane talk throughout the remainder of the week in between show tapings. First off, the major subject of this week's show is there's two of my all-time favorite Hurricanes. Devin, Hester, and Andre Johnson got elected to the Hall of Fame. Congratulations to those two guys. Started with Andre Johnson in that 2001-2002 national championship game, just owning the Nebraska Cornhuskers and getting two big touchdowns there in that first half. Really, it just started what was to be seen in the NFL later in his career. It's just a physical specimen, all of 6'3", 220-ish pounds. Guy can run like the wind, but it was really his physicality as a receiver. He was, very much capable of throwing around a DB on the other end of trying to stop him. And even though he did not go to a great program in the Houston Texans there, somebody that continued to produce year in and year out. If you got into fantasy like I did in the early 2000s, if you did not have Andre Johnson on your team and you were going against him, you knew that guy was good for 100 yards and a touchdown almost every week. So an incredible career, much deserved. I know that these day and ages they're making receivers wait a little bit to get into the Hall of Fame. It's very few and far between to get the first ballot guys. I do think I thought maybe it was Andre and Reggie Wayne going to go in this year. So huge surprise that Devin Hester was very, very deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. You're going to see as the years go on, it's going to be harder and harder to get return guys, specialists in that end into the Hall of Fame because they're not kicking off where it's possible to return as much these days. And as you and I all know, that one of Devin Hester's signature moments was returning that opening kickoff against the Indianapolis Colts right back to the house on his rookie year, where he was just blowing up the league really from day one. When he was on the Miami Hurricanes, I believe it was the second game of his freshman season, he did the same thing against the Florida Gators, returned that opening kickoff for 6. The next kickoff to Sean Taylor was almost housed there too. An incredible game, one where the Miami Hurricanes were down late and ended up going ahead and returning, getting that game won. So I remember right off the bat of Devin Hester's career just being smitten with this guy, this superstar that was to be. In his junior season, it was one of those real disappointing years from the Miami Hurricanes because I felt like this guy should have been on the field, much like it was Reggie Bush's Heisman campaign where that guy was just running Rackshaw all over college football. I really believed back then that Devin Hester, had he been given the opportunity to get on the field offensively, and if we would have used him in creative ways, could have absolutely dominated. And who's to say what he could have been capable of had he had more opportunities on the offensive side. At that time, he was playing defense and holding his own as a cornerback, made some splash plays on that end, but it was really his return ability from day one. It was not to be denied in any game. If you remember the Duke game, the human joystick, where he went back and forth, to score a touchdown against the Duke Blue Devils in that game in his junior season. He was lightning in a bottle. Devin Hester was incredible to watch in his pro career, in his Hurricanes career. So Andre and Devin Hester, congratulations on a much-deserved. And, now the Miami Hurricanes are right up at the very tip top of the most college representation in the NFL Hall of Fame, which is pretty incredible considering the Miami history doesn't go back as far as the Notre Dame and USC. I think the only two schools that are actually ahead of Miami as far as having Hall of Famers in there and representing their school. USC and Notre Dame go back as far as the 60s and even farther back. So it's really a tremendous honor to have all these Hurricanes representing so heavily in the NFL Hall of Fame. And you absolutely know Frank Gore's getting in when he becomes eligible, the third all-time leading rusher. So a guy that's put a great career of work together, and coming from the team that was on the team the same time as these two guys that we're looking at now. And if you had to guess at that time, would you have guessed Frank Gore was going to be the guy that was going to far and away exceed all of the other running backs from that time in a long tenured and a much deserved Hall of Fame career for Frank Gore? I thought, Reggie Wayne, again, to touch on him, I do think he gets in. His numbers are in the top 10 for sure. His numbers are right there with Andre's. They really have identical numbers. Andre did not have the Peyton Manning that he got to play with. Later, Andrew Luck there at Indianapolis for Reggie Wayne to help those numbers. But Andre was a beast, and year in and year out, even on bad teams, you knew that they had one stud, and that was the wide receiver there. So congratulations to those two guys, two of my all-time, again, favorite Hurricanes. Great to see those guys getting in the Hall of Fame. Now we'll touch on the turnover in the Miami organization. Alonzo Highsmith has decided to move out of the general manager of football operations and head back to the NFL. So there is a little bit of a void there. This day and age, the NIL world, you got to have a guy that's, maybe above the head coach as far as seeing how, to work the guy who's getting what as far as compensation, trying to keep that, that bridge between the collectives and those guys that can actually, fund the actual players. You want to keep that, maybe try to take that a little bit off the head coach's plate. Mark Cristobal's out there recruiting the heck out of the nation, and certainly in South Florida, he's done really well to keep some of that talent home. So it is important to have a guy that can run that, holistic organization-wise. Alonzo Highsmith had a lot of NFL experience, so him going back at this time is now maybe not a huge surprise. It's a little bit unfortunate because I think the guy certainly bleeds orange and green. He's one of the original Hurricanes, going all the way back to that 83-84 championship team, and then had a lot of success. So it is big shoes to fill. We do need to certainly find someone that's capable of running, this organization. You got to call them organizations now. It's not just schools. This is starting to become big deal in the financial world of college athletics that we are. So there's also been the running backs coach, Tim Ice Harris Jr. has decided to move back to UCF. So we do have a running back coach vacancy. At the filming of this show, it's not dead set. I haven't seen it's official that we've hired. It does look like there is the leading candidate from USF. The interesting part is that's a team we do face in week 4, our fourth game. So it is, maybe you're bringing a coach from a coaching staff that you're going to want to know a little bit about that program when you face them the fourth game of the season. He did have some success from what I've read and seen at USF. They did had some pretty good numbers putting up in the running back room, because this is a Miami running back room that's not bare. This, you got Mark Fletcher, a big body, capable of breaking tackles. I think in his sophomore season, once he gets healthy, has immense potential. You got Henry Parrish, lots of experience, a guy that's certainly capable of taking care of business when he gets the opportunities. A.J. Allen, a guy that made a couple dynamic plays last year, certainly another year under his belt. And then you got young guys. I think that Chris Johnson is somebody I want to see get more and more opportunities. He's really got lightning speed, so I want to see him develop well. So that's what you're hoping they're bringing in with a running backs coach. On the other end, we did lose our defensive backs coach. Jamila Dye has decided to move on to the NFL. So I'd like to see, somebody that can really develop that room. I think there is talent, starting with Damari Brown. I think we need to get back to having 2, maybe 3 lockdown corners, because there's talent in that position all across South Florida. So it's really important that we start bringing those guys in and have that effect in their college careers, that they're developing into that. Ryan Mack played really well in the high school All-America All-Star game that he was in. Very, very possible that he come in and make waves. Robert Stafford, a guy that there was a lot of talk coming into his freshman season. He didn't play a lot last year. Hopefully he can develop. And we really start making some waves in that defensive backfield, because there's this day and age in college football, it is so important to have talent and guys that are really going to hold that position down and be efficient, because there's guys thrown out all over the field. You got to have lockdown corners, and then hopefully the safety play behind them. We're going to be starting fresh, because the two starters from last year are now needing to be replaced. Cam Kitchen's a great playmaker, big physical specimen, and James Williams need to be replaced. I haven't talked about him before, but there's the player that got transferred from Washington, a guy that started a ton of games, has a ton of experience. In that game that I got to watch against Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game, it looked like he played more of the slot position. I think that's a good position for him to play and have that experience in. If it's my preference, I think instead of having the small, quick corner in that slot position as much, what's probably more beneficial in the whole, because you almost run that nickel as your base package nowadays, with all the formations really having 3 and 4 receivers a lot of times. I think it's good to have that guy that's got a physical, a leg up in the physical space. A 6'1", 6'2" guy, a physical tackler, because if you're a safety, you should be a good tackler playing that position, because there is times where you're going to need to go out and fill run fits. So you want to have a guy that's got that, maybe a couple extra inches, a couple of extra pounds, and that tackling is more of, their niche. You want to have that player in that position, I think. A guy that can go out and run on the edges, certainly, but I think that is, maybe where you want to see more of that. Hopefully that's what the Miami Hurricanes go ahead and do, and then maybe Jaden Harris is ready to play a full-time role. I thought there were some good things with Markeith Williams, the younger guy, to go ahead and get some experience. Hopefully he's ready to take that traditional safety spot over in a full-time capacity. And if not, there's a couple other options. Savion Riley from Vanderbilt that also might get some play. So coaching turnover, program turnover, it's not the ideal thing, but hopefully there is new guys brought in position to develop the talent that is in the stable, and we have a good 2024 showing. Moving on to the Miami basketball team, I was able to watch the Miami-Virginia game last week that was real tough. Miami basketball team only scored 35 points. I mean, if you looked at the numbers, it was just horrible from a field goal standpoint. They were like under 30% shooting the ball. So I think Virginia's defense does play into that. They pressure the ball really well. A good program. ACC's tough in basketball. Miami basketball team has struggled this year. It's not anywhere near what the hope would be. That I think that this was a tournament-capable team at the start of the year. I thought they did a good job of filling positions that we lost. Isaiah Wong, also ACC player, and then a great player in Jordan Miller that were able to take that team last year to the Final Four. Maybe injuries has really been the undoing of this year's basketball team. Matt Cleveland has had an effect where he's certainly a capable player, very much that Jordan Miller physical size, or that guy that can kind of play up to shooting forward position, and then guard that can shoot, so got some length. He's been out of the lineup a little bit. Nigel Pack hasn't been consistently healthy. Wooga Poplar, the guy that you would hope for taking over that Isaiah Wong scoring ability, just really hasn't been healthy this year. In that game that against Virginia that I got to watch, Keyshawn George, the guy that's a lot of people are talking about, a real young guy, was really starting to come into his own this season and be consistent. Goes down with an ankle injury and misses the most part of that game. So real disappointing. Men's basketball, I think, is going to certainly not be the team that we saw the last year that got to the Final Four. Even the year before that was an Elite Eight team. I think it's going to be real hard to get into the dance this year. There's a game this weekend against the number 3 North Carolina Tar Heels. So if you really go ahead and put everything falls together, that you go ahead and beat that team, it's possible to get in as a at-large type of an entry in the men's Final Four or men's tournament this year. But I think it's really hard to say that you see that happening. If they go ahead and win the ACC tournament, you get an automatic bid. So this team's capable. They have that talent. It just doesn't seem like this year everything's going well for them. North Chad-Almere, one of the great players in the Miami basketball in the recent years, is, certainly had decent games, but just not able to, really, when you need to get a basket, able to possession in, possession out, get those points. So a little disappointing from not being able to follow up last year's immense run, but certainly, again, if you've watched the show in the past, I'm not here to say anything negative about the basketball men's program because they've done a lot to give us reasons to be happy about that program and continue with good faith that they can get it figured out. Maybe next year if they can keep a lot of this talent that is on the Miami basketball team intact. Lastly, I will talk about the Super Bowl. It is Super Bowl week. I incorrectly did not pick that the Ravens were going to win in previous shows, but now that we have the game coming up in just a couple days, I'll go ahead and tell you, I think this is going to be a tough call to say. I think it's the Chiefs going to win this game. Much like in the Patriots runs in the past, when you have that team who's got that experience, for the most part, this is a very similar as personnel-wise team that was able to win the whole thing last year and beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Certainly, the San Francisco 49ers have talent to do that and beat the Chiefs. Christian McCaffrey's lightning in a bottle, can take the ball at any point in time and score. Yeah, Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, both fantastic receivers. Brock Purdy, very much a capable quarterback to go ahead and get the job done. And you got George Kittle, very, very strong tight end talent. And then you got, of course, Travis Kelce on the other end on the Chiefs roster, a big-time playmaker. And then you got guys like Rashee Rice on the Chiefs that have really come into their own in his rookie season, has really filled that need for a good wide receiver on the Chiefs. So this is going to be a great game. I think I will predict 35-31 as the final score prediction in the Chiefs' favor. But big mistakes about it. I'm not saying could go either way. Both teams have had a great year. Both have talent offensively, defensively. Coaching staffs are solid. So I think this could go either way. But, you got to pick one. So here I am going to pick the Chiefs begrudgingly because I like to see more parity. Not that I want to see the San Francisco 49ers rack up more Super Bowl championships, but I'd like to see, someone other than the previous champion win a Super Bowl. So that's the show this week, guys. Thank you for hanging into the end of the video if you're this far. Again, congratulations to our two studs, the newly minted Hall of Famers representing the U, Devin Hester and Andre Johnson. Look forward to seeing you in the next week's show. Have a great week. Enjoy the Super Bowl. It's always great to be a Miami Hurricane.